Hey everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today my guest is Leslie Yazel, editor and head of content for Buy Side from the Wall Street Journal. Leslie has worked as a journalist for more than 30 years, previously as the programming strategy editor in the Wall Street Journal newsroom. She's also worked as editor-in-chief of Real Simple. She was director of editorial content at Cosmopolitan magazine and an editor of Glamour and Maxim magazines. Today, we're talking about the future of content. Many of you are working in customer experience, marketing, and customer service. You have to be content experts. So today, we're talking about what will engage your customers. What do you have to start thinking about as you create a content strategy for your customer base? This podcast is relevant for any of you, no matter what your role is, because we all have to be content experts today. Please enjoy Leslie Yazel. Leslie, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast, all the way from New York City. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
So, Leslie, I think both you and I have had different, but in some ways really similar career paths, which is content. So content in the last 20 years has proved to be extremely important, especially in the last 15 with the explosion of social media and the internet. So a lot of my audience aren't necessarily content experts, but in their roles, whether they're doing marketing or customer experience or customer service, they're interacting with content every day and having to come up with content strategies. So we're excited to learn from you. Let's start with just the brief kind of overview of your career, which has been really incredible, and we'll go from there.
Well, like you, started in journalism right out of college, lived in London, covered the tech industry, came back to the U.S., worked in newspapers at the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, took my foray into magazines, worked at Cosmopolitan. I was editor-in-chief at Real Simple magazine, a magazine about organizing your life, and then came back to the Wall Street Journal, leading strategy and search engine optimization teams in the newsroom.
Okay. Isn't that interesting that that's actually a job title? Like so many new job titles have exploded in the last 10 years. Let's talk about the Buy Side for our audience that don't know it. I mean, I just was checking out the website. It's obviously beautifully curated content. What is the business model for Buy Side?
Absolutely. So we are an affiliate revenue operation. We help people find consumer goods and also personal finance services and products. And, we get a cut of that. And I run the editorial part of that team. We do lots of research, reviews, rigorous testing, helping people to feel confident about making a decision on Buy Side.
Okay. So obviously advertisers are looking for new ways to get in front of customers. We're at this really interesting inflection point in content and media where sometimes as a customer, it's hard to see the difference between a sponsored post and an objective post. But now the sponsored content is supposed to be objective too, in a way. So, and then, I mean, we could get into a whole conversation about product placement in TV, but let's just talk about how what are the laws of content at Wall Street Journal Buy Side?
So to be clear, we are an independent editorial team.
Okay.
So we are not influenced by the deals that my partners in the commerce and biz dev side make as far as what percentage we get from a certain company when their products sell on the site. Mm-hmm. We have a wall that's in between that. And that's because, the Wall Street Journal is one of the most trusted media brands in America. There was another new study recently saying the same darn thing. And so as a shopping site, as an affiliate revenue site, we still embody those values of making independent recommendations, doing what is best for the reader. And by doing that, we still have an excellent business model.
Okay. So how do you come up with a topic for the Buy Side?
Sure. Well, my role in search engine optimization is sort of what led me to Buy Side because I really enjoy seeing sort of what people are searching for, getting those insights from all the different SEO tools at our disposal, because it really puts you in touch of day to day what people are interested in. And so we really run an editorial roadmap in part driven by those search interests, because those are the high intent customers who come from search. I love it when people come from social. They're like, oh, I love my site. I'll click through on Instagram. I'll come through Facebook. But, the readers who come from search are the ones who have been looking for a particular product or answer and really want to get there, make a decision. And those are the people we can really service.
Okay. So my audience, this is a customer experience podcast. Content is a huge part now of customer experience. You could imagine digital and self-service and all of that is huge. Could you just talk about some of the trends you're seeing in content and what our audience, what trends they need to be paying attention to as they try and present the best content to their customers?
Absolutely. I mean, Blake, as well as I do that starting where the reader is the best thing to do with content. So, we look at the trends. So, taking a look back a little bit during the pandemic, everyone was working from home and everyone needed to find an adjustable standing desk.
Yeah.
And they needed to have a nice houseplant, and they needed to have fitness equipment that they could use at home because they weren't going to the gym. And so we rode that trend wave very successfully, and that was something that we jumped on. I think as we look ahead and we look at what are some of the longer trends, we've found a great audience for what we call elevated essentials. And that's really something that has great use case, but also looks nice, has a quality that will last, that you feel good about buying. So we're talking about, a beautiful coffee maker. We're talking about an appliance that you're going to look at every day, and it has function and style. And that sort of place where function and style meet has been a great trend, and something that we've picked up on and really made the most of.
Okay, so one of the things that I'm thinking about, Leslie, is how brands are trying to get in front of customers. I love how you say start where the customer is at. So many of us, yes, during COVID, I bought a Peloton. I never went back to the gym. I just bought a treadmill. It's coming tomorrow. I'm so excited. So like a lot of us, we had big life changes. We're searching the internet. A lot of marketers now are trying to ride this wave too. And they're trying to teach customers and acquire customers by teaching them something through content. They're not necessarily writers. Are there some common missteps you're seeing brands make when they create content for readers that we need to be aware of?
I think when people try to push the product before they've answered the question, it's a misstep, because answering the question is what builds loyalty. So yes, we will have articles about, in this past year with savings rates, articles about CDs and high yield savings accounts have done really well for us. And so, but we don't just say, here's the best ones. We also say, what should you think about before you move your money? What does it mean to have FDIC protection? What are some of these neobanks that are offering some of the best rates, and you've never heard of them before? And we explain why those rates are better, who these banks are, how to vet them. And so when you push the product before getting someone comfortable with all the knowledge that goes around the product, I think that's a misstep. I think that you have to have a dual purpose in both, marketing your products, but also answering all the questions that will lead to the best decision.
Okay, so one of the things that I don't fully understand that I want to understand from you is, let's say we're talking about money market funds and you think, let's say Charles Schwab offers a good one. Did Charles Schwab approach you and say, we want you to write about us? Or did you just do your research and you felt Charles Schwab is great, and then we're getting like money for the link? Like, how does it work?
So nobody talks their way into being in buy side.
Okay.
We start out with an independent criteria. So let me tell you about our testing. we do two types of things. One, we go to experts and speak with them about their recommendations, products that they themselves use, products they recommend to clients. And then we do another type of research, which is this rigorous testing. And on the consumer goods side, that could consist of burying suitcases in the Minnesota snow for 2 days to see if the zippers rust and if the water actually gets in or if it truly is water resistant. And on the side of things like best credit cards, high yield savings accounts, insurance, we look at all of the different surveys, both customer satisfaction, we look at rates, we look at if companies have had any regulatory issues. We have a big spreadsheet where we narrow things down. We have a criteria for these, which is transparent. All of our criteria are on the site. How did we pick this? We always tell you. And that's what we do. And it is not influenced by clients who might want to be on buy side. You can't buy your way in. It is very independent. And I think that's a positive because I think it sets us apart from a lot of our competitors. So are there ways that companies can partner with us? Can they advertise on the site? Can they buy our seals, which a lot of them do when they make our best list? So that's a lot of the ways that brands work with us.
All right. So a lot of brands, like what you're doing, are trying to curate content and attract customers by curating incredible blogs and YouTube channels and all of that. And let's talk about generating trust with customers. What are the ways? I mean, we talked about meet the reader where they are. What are the other ways that you gain trust with your readers that we could learn from?
I think that you can't underestimate the power of visuals. And that may sound obvious, but when I look at our competitors, I see a lot of people who are just sort of using pictures of products that are not terribly appealing. They don't have a coherent design style. I brought in a creative director who had worked for many years at name brand magazines and operations to bring a specific taste level. We often suggest products that are very high price. And if that is your business model, you need to surround the reader with an environment that looks appropriate for that they feel comfortable in, that says something about who you are. So I think visuals are incredibly important. Was the second part of that question?
I think that's perfect because upon looking at Buy Side, like it's just very beautiful. You can tell that it was very artfully curated and the photography is just gorgeous and it's really an experience. And I think you're absolutely right. Stock photos are just not going to cut it.
Well, and one of the nice things about being a search-driven business is that many of the things that Google rewards are the same things that make a great customer experience. Google rewards content that is authoritative, that shows expertise, that is trusted, and that's exactly what we do. And they also reward original art, that you're not just recycling things that are out there, that you're taking care with this. And so, people complain all the time about, just doing things for search. But the truth is, if you're running a high quality content operation, that dovetails with what Google rewards.
Absolutely. That's an amazing segue to my next question about SEO. You spent a lot of time looking at SEO. What are some of the lessons you've learned over the years that would help us too as we try and climb our way to the top of the search engine?
Sure. I mean, I think that, we've had a dual strategy of going after very high volume searches. So there are a lot of people out there searching for what is the best travel credit card. But we've also gone for searches that are more in the mid-level of monthly searches. So we're doing terrific with our best men's dress shoes. There isn't as much search for that. And it's an area where we win. We are tops. We sell a lot of dress shoes. It's terrific. And so that's one of our strategies. But I think also you see a lot of places where they are just stacking keywords in order to try and game Google. And I think it's a mistake. It ruins the reader experience. we hire a lot of experienced writers, and we are a team of experienced editors because we know how to take keywords and content and do it in an elegant way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it takes time and attention. It's doable. It's working for us. And, now I'm giving away all the secrets, but
Right, right. Yeah, so it's about creating experience, not being so obsessed with SEO and SEO words, and the writing is terrible because it's just clutter. It's not clean, and I love that.
it
Any
becomes very repetitive. That's always your first signal that
Oh
someone
yes.
is really focusing on that too much, is you're just like, didn't I just read that word 4 times?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, are there any brands where you feel like they're actually putting out good content, like that you would actually read that you could think of?
Well, sure. I mean, we have friendly relationships with the other affiliate revenue sites. Wirecutter, in some ways, is the most similar because they're owned by the New York Times, the same way that we're part of. We're on WSJ.com. And, the reviews they do are excellent. They're rigorous. They take a lot of care in this. They use experts. They update their stories regularly, so they're always fresh. And I think it's very impressive what they've done. I think that we tried to be a little different in that, and the editor-in-chief over there is a friend of mine, so I can say something negative that I've already said to him, which is that sometimes I get to the end of a list of products that I'm looking for, and they say, and this is the best one. And I look at it and I say, it's so ugly.
Mhm.
I don't want it in my kitchen. So the fact that we've added a layer of style to this, I think, is important. But there are other good places. I love reading The Strategist. They have so much fun with their content. It's a lovely operation. The Strategist, which is part of New York Magazine. And so, we have some great competitors out there. And that's great because, it makes the field more interesting. It keeps us on our toes. And we look for those differentiation points.
You know what's interesting is now there's this crossroads of content and how to. Like, for example, my eyes are always watering. And for these podcasts that everybody's watching right now, I got to put mascara on. So I looked at YouTube and I looked at articles like, what is mascara for women whose eyes water? And, like, imagine if companies actually were objective and hired writers and content creators to do like what you're doing objectively and say, here are 10 waterproof mascaras. We've tried them. Here's what happened. And I mean, that's so useful.
I mean, in some ways, this is what the high quality magazines were doing years ago before the
Yeah.
magazine industry changed dramatically. So I'll tell you that one time at a magazine I was at, we sent 17 women to a very weepy, I think it was a Susan Sarandon film.
Oh,
And
okay.
so that they could cry throughout the movie, and they each were wearing a different mascara. And that's how we did it. Now we do it a little more systematically with spreadsheets and talking to dermatologists and ophthalmologists and things like that. But, same concept there. It's like narrowing it down and making it easy for the reader. And I think one message is, show your work. Let the consumer know the work that's gone into this. We're very transparent about the sources that we look at and how much work we put into this, so that people can say, wow, they did do a lot of work. I can feel good about this purchase. I feel like I've got a full picture. And we mention negatives too. You'll see some affiliate revenue sites, they'll tell you everything that's great about the product, and they'll make it sound like the product is great for everyone. And that's almost never true. There's usually a drawback, and sometimes a product is only best for a subset of people. And I think it's good to be honest about that.
Do you think that brands have the opportunity to gain enough trust with readers by creating like what you have, like an editorial side of their business that's supposedly completely separate? Let's say one of their team members does do a mascara review, and it's a mascara company, a makeup company, like a Sephora. Do you think the customer could ever trust that content creator, that it's completely objective if it's a brand that sells mascara?
I think that's tough. I think that's a tough one because I think that, people say, well, what are you gaining from this? And
It's
it's like, yes,
trust, though.
it's what?
It's trust, but yes, you're absolutely right. So
I
your
mean, I
answer
think
is no.
well, my answer is like, you have to create the larger trust. And then that sort of direct marketing works. But I think people have to feel like you're a brand that is trusted. It's interesting to look at the comments that people leave, reader reviews on sites. And some sites you get the impression that they sort of get rid of all the negative ones. And some sites you see a lot of negative reviews for certain products. And I tend to like those sites better because I feel like they're being more transparent. And that's one of the values that I have. And I think that's what many shoppers have as well.
Do you like when brands respond to those negative reviews?
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
I
you
love
do?
it. Especially, Blake, when you read hotel reviews, do you notice that like they'll chime in and they say, so sorry you had a bad experience. And you just
Yeah.
think like, oh, they're paying attention, they're watching. I think it's incredibly valuable because it sends the message that you are heard. We get feedback through our different channels and I read all of it. And, if someone's complaining, I write back to them and say, oh, thank you for writing in. I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's important.
Well, I think this is really interesting. And I think everybody watching and listening has something to learn from you that content has never been more important than it is now. Hiring good writers, creating beautiful experiences that are interesting, and thinking about trust. And I think that we've learned a lot from you today. How about taking some rapid fire questions? Does that sound fun?
I mean, terrifying and fun. Let's do it, Blake.
Okay. Well, it's not supposed to be terrifying, but all right. So what does your morning routine look like?
I listen to BBC News while I make coffee. I make pour over, and then I listen to WNYC because I love local news. And then I listen to the Journal's podcast. And then I check the New York Times app because my husband works there, and I suppose I should know what's going on there. So that's most of my morning. I also make lunch for a 12-year-old.
Okay. Do you have a unique leadership hack that helped get you to where you are?
Unique leadership hack. I think that managing up is really important. And I had an editor early on who said, you should always have a talking point ready for whoever you run into in the elevator. So sometimes I run into Robert Thompson, CEO of News Corp, who I used to work for when he was editor of the Journal. And I always have a story for him, something that's going on that's positive and exciting. And I try to always be ready for that when I see someone above me in the chain.
Okay. What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
What is relaxing? What is, no, I'm kidding. I'm big into hiking and skiing, so my weekends are very relaxing. I do try to take the weekends off and stop working, and that's one of my favorite things. And doing really difficult things is relaxing because you can't think about work. So I really do love to play golf, and I am taking a German class in the evenings, which is incredibly hard and requires all my focus.
I love that. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Oh, sometimes it's tied up in work. I love work success. It feels so good. And part of that is because I'm very mission oriented. I like that you had Brian Sanders from AAA on recently, and he talked about his greatest inspiration is the customer. And I sort of feel the same way. If I hear from someone that they had a great experience on the site, that's real happiness. But real happiness is time with family. We took a great family trip recently, and being with my husband and daughter away from work was pretty magical.
So that leads me to my next question. What is your favorite type of vacation?
Ooh, great question. Mountains, hiking, getting outdoors. I am an outdoorsy person. I live in New York City, so anytime I can be in Vermont or Oregon is sort of my very favorite type of vacation.
What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Ooh, I think that keep it in perspective. What will this look like 5 years from now? I will say that at the moment, it's easy to keep everything in perspective. We're on day 50 that Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich has been wrongfully detained in Russia. We have his picture all over the newsroom to remind us of the importance of his freedom. And that keeps it all in perspective.
I'm so sorry. Okay, next question. If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard. There's some people I'd like to give a piece of my mind. Um, but I think Virginia Woolf. I read so much Virginia Woolf in college, and I feel like I still don't really understand her. I have many questions.
Okay, no one's ever said that. I like that. If you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
Oh, cheerfulness will get you far.
I love that. Well, this has been so fun, Leslie. Thank you for joining me. And I hope you'll come back. And I really am going to start perusing Buy Side more often for all my shopping needs and my mascara needs. So thanks again for being here.
I really appreciate it. I appreciate that you took time to speak with someone who specializes in content. I love what you do with the show. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time.